So let's say you pull a list of prospects from Sales Navigator and you say, well, that's all the companies I have found. And then later you realize, well, the real market is actually 10 times more what you have found in terms of company size. Now, I saw that exact situation last week with a Jakarta team. They were selling into construction companies, and their team identified around 5,000 companies or 5,000 firms. And they said, you know what? These are all the companies we have identified. We mapped them out and we will reach out to them. And so they did. And then later to realize that the actual government listed companies that has been updated since 2025 was exactly 60,000+ active contractual companies in Indonesia. No wonder later on their meetings started to slow down and they realized they are recycling back the same exact 5,000 companies. They have reached the same exact people for the last 9 months. And it was ridiculous because they ended up saying we should consider moving to another country. And guess what? They were leaving almost 90% of the market. They only covered the 10%. And what makes matters worse, they were not even prioritizing which from these 5,000 accounts they should prioritize that are ready or having a ready budget. So in APAC, if you start in the wrong place, your team loses months and you end up wasting salaries, resources, time, monthly expenses, and end up not getting the best traction compared to your competitors. Look, the problem is not really the team. It was more of the starting point, the strategy. Where should we start? What platform we should leverage from? And what data that shows to us that they are the right fit companies or the right budget fit to talk to. So this is exactly why we're having this video. I will be showing you a simple way to confirm where your buyers actually are. So we don't go on a random platform. We validate that first. Which companies to prioritize. So even if you have 10,000, 20,000, 30,000, that's nothing. We need to focus on companies that have budget, and we need to have a proof to back that up. You know what? Whatever I'm going to say next helps you a lot with not wasting any of the resources at all. It gives you precision, efficiency at scale. So here's what I plan to show you today and what you will walk away with. How to check if your audience even showed up on those social platforms like LinkedIn. When to start to use government directories or local directories or Google Maps data. How to test to see how much of the market you're missing out on. So let's start with you need to validate where your buyers are, which platform are they actually active on. So you have to start simple. First of all, I would always advise to build a seed list. You need to look into 10 companies you already know in your segment. Or for example, those 10 companies can be coming from inbound companies that you already secured proposals with or becoming even your clients or even your competitors. So you will see your competitors are bragging about like success stories with this XYZ company. So you take these 10 seed companies because these are your companies that you would want to find lookalikes. That would be your baseline. And you will test every platform against this baseline. And you will know what do I mean by that in a minute. So the idea is you want one thing. Which platform finds more companies similar to those 10 companies? So here is how I would do it. You will need to test what we call digital first platform and benchmark that against actual companies that are officially listed as companies in that industry. The way I would do it is, let's take this as a classic example. So we discussed earlier about this company that is looking to sell to construction companies in Indonesia. My first test is number one, I will go and check something like this. Indonesia, as you can see in the filter. So this is Sales Navigator, how it looks like in the dashboard. If you're not familiar with it, that's how it looks like. And I will put the industries, constructions, building construction, and the country. Now, again, this is not qualified companies. If you reach out to them, that's crazy. That's a nightmare. You don't want to do that. But it gives you a little bit of context. What is the digitally visible companies that I have access to from LinkedIn? That they basically decided to make a LinkedIn page and they have employees that are saying that they are working for these companies. Now, I will go here first to check. And then I would also want to check the construction, again, industry, but on a people level. I want to get a quick glance on if I would want to find decision makers in general in Indonesia that in the construction industry, would it be a good idea for me to consider going for him to begin with, or it's a horrible idea? So this is how I build my judgment. I will have two ways. Most likely, I will always remove the entry level in training, entry level manager. I want to focus on top mid management or senior mid management and top management. This is what we call digital first validation. I want to validate if even LinkedIn is a good fit or not a good fit in terms of platform. Now, what you would see is people who are in procurement. This is a director. This one is a consultant. So what usually happens next is definitely you can consider going for extra layer of keywords. So maybe I just want to see procurement. How many people in procurement available on LinkedIn in Sales Navigator. Now, again, those people identify themselves as procurement, but they can also identify as buyer. So the keywords, this is what we call exact match, and this is my style of how I would specifically research. However, it's too early to do so because that's not the right strategy at the beginning. Because at this point, I just want to validate to my team and myself if it's a good idea to go via Sales Navigator or basically using LinkedIn as an outreach engine for me, or that's a bad idea. So now I know I can only find 500 companies over here and around, 5,000 companies and about 350,000 prospects. Of course, they are not in the procurement because it might be directors, it might be GMs. I still don't know. And it just gives me a little bit of visibility. The next step is you would want to go for Apollo. It's a very good tool. I would say they have been investing heavily on scraping data from different places, Google Maps, LinkedIn, but I think they are heavily still relying on LinkedIn. Now, I have experience with Apollo in terms of sometimes they give you, so in this case, I put here, as you can see, construction. I put the country, Indonesia. Again, this is just to validate in terms of quality of data. Now, I got about 3,300 visible companies that have digital track record that I can also consider. Now, from my experience, sometimes they are overlapping with LinkedIn companies that you have found. Sometimes they are completely new companies. So in my case, I would advise to extract these companies and also extract these companies. So you're looking into just trying to figure out how much is the overlap. Is it 80%? Is it 90%? It's very important to have full coverage when I'm talking about digital visibility. But again, I am not at this stage to extract yet. The whole idea is digital presence. Now, what I want to do next is I want to figure out a way to know what is the current companies right now, like what is the total amount of companies in the construction space in Indonesia. Now, I would usually use this prompts. You can also, if you want to use it, you can see it in the resource section. If you're watching YouTube, it's going to be in the description. And this prompt always helps me to validate if we are on track. So this is how it looks like. So this is a prompt. As you can see, it finds a realistic total number of construction companies in Indonesia. You must identify the correct official data sources yourself. First, do not assume I know them. Use only publicly verifiable updated Indonesian databases. Strictly avoid assumptions or estimates. If data is not available, write the data not available. This is brilliant if you don't want speculations and assumptions from ChatGPT. And you also advise ChatGPT, your steps must be identify all official and credible Indonesian sources that track construction businesses, extract the latest available real numbers for construction companies in Indonesia, validate by cross-checking across at least 2 independent sources. Now, here's where it's tricky. Here's the tricky part. Now, it did give me interesting places that it looked at, which is Badan Pusat statistic. And it did give me the national statistics of construction companies in Indonesia. I would have to open that to validate it if it's correct or no. It's updated since November 2024. However, this is a problem with ChatGPT and the hallucination. So the problem is, let me just translate that to English. It did say mining, manufacturing, and construction. So somehow it combined them. It did not specifically mention construction companies. And guess what? It tells me about 158,000 companies in Indonesia that are the small size. The intermediate size were 27,000 companies. 1,000 are the big, and in the 1,000 plus are the big enterprises. And of course, the total is this much. Of course, that's insane. So imagine we find 5,000, we end up getting business. But I also still do not believe this number for the very simple reason it somehow combined manufacturing and mining. So I want to go back and check with ChatGPT what other sources it got for me. So again, I don't believe ChatGPT. As you can see, it didn't. If I take its number, it's gonna be a bit misleading for me. So I would avoid that altogether. And I will still go and check until I find something they find, which is here. It's very interesting. It says number of registered construction service business entities recorded by LPJK of 24 June 2024. Now that's interesting. It did only say construction. So let me open that link. Let me have a look at it and see how did that work. So I will go open it here. Yep. So these are all, let me translate that to English again. And I can see that they are construction service business entities in 2024. So that's the recent update from the government directory. And this is the total amount. It didn't say exact company. So this is a tricky part. You will know later how to find this huge amount of companies that you've been missing on. And you're missing out on. If you would just stick with LinkedIn, you would have missed on crazy amounts. So this is about equivalent to almost about 60 to 80,000 companies you are missing out on. And it can show you every single province, how many companies does it have. So this is a very critical resource that we might have been left out completely. So this is how I look at in terms of logic flow and how I identify. So when you look at this outcome, you will see that, okay, Sales Navigator got me 5,000 companies. Apollo got me 3,000 plus companies. In reality, I have about 60 to 80,000 plus companies. In your universe, in terms of coverage, you're covering only probably about 5 to 7% in terms of your actual addressable market. Now, it also gives you an idea that in Indonesia, the digital footprint is a nightmare. The visibility is not really that simple. And this also helps you a little bit to map what is the current companies that are visibly online. And you will categorize that later on in terms of priority in reaching out. So this is where it brings me to the point where a lot of teams, especially the sales team, the BDRs, the one who are doing reaching out, they really go wrong. They start blasting outreach. They didn't even do benchmark check of the exact market and the digital visible companies. So, okay, our target is 5,000 companies. We have about, from those 5,000 companies, we managed to focus only on procurement, or we focus on the buyers, yada, yada, yada. And they start reaching out with zero triggers, and they don't have any reference point of what is the context or how to track a context with these potential leads. And they end up really hitting a wall. Now, the digital count that we just did helps you to know 4 things. Which companies are online, which one have websites, which are active staff on LinkedIn, or how many people are active on LinkedIn, and which can be enriched easily and not a nightmare to reach out to. Now, the next step is very important because without it, you are not going to have any context, and this is a priority problem. You would need to always strategize on signals because signals matter. So what do I mean by signals? For example, for construction, the strongest signals are always hiring, new projects that they are involved in, permits they just got, tender participation they just won, or expansion announcement. These are the kind of signals that gives you an idea that they are the right fit companies in terms of they are active. They are active construction companies. They are not running on a shoestring budget, for God's sake. They are the right fit companies to talk to. They have a budget. Most likely there is a good use case for them as well. And look, you would want to start with a signal, at least one signal. I will always suggest to go for the easiest one, hiring, because hiring is much more cleaner. It's the easiest to track. It gives you 2 important things: that the company is active, they have a budget to hire more staff, they are investing into teams, probably systems and capabilities. So that's usually the cleanest proxy for in terms of budget fit in traditional industries. And most construction companies in Indonesia do not hire IT. So let's say if you are selling an IT solution and you're looking at these companies that have hired IT individuals, good luck on that. You will not really find. There's another way to do so. I will probably discuss this in details in another video. Maybe you can give your comments if you want to know how do we identify if this construction company is an IT fit company in terms of like they have an IT department and so on. I'm happy to share that in details. If you want to track what they are hiring, you best track like their project manager, the procurement supervisor. These are the roles that tells you the real story. They are active, they have projects, they have budget, yada, yada, yada. Now, this is where I would call this the tier 1 accounts or the tier 1 companies that we would want to consider. I would start with the hiring signal. I will scrape them and probably I will use Sales Navigator to enrich these companies in the next step. So the best platforms, so let's go to my screen again. Let me just give you a classic case over here. So first of all, you can see on JobStreet, I would usually go for a few platforms. JobStreet, Indeed Indonesia, Glints, Caliber, LinkedIn Jobs, Career, Urban Hire. These are very good places, but I will start with JobStreet first because it's a very happening platform. As you can see, I put here construction. So if I would put this in English again. So if I put in English, you can see construction. I didn't put keyword yet because I want to have an idea how many jobs available in construction right now for the industry. So I can see a lot of companies in the construction industry are hiring safety officer, project estimator, field supervisor, brilliant. What I would do next is I will get this script. This is what we call very good. It's called Instant Data Scraper. So Instant Data Scraper is an extension which you can get. It's called Instant Data Scraper Chrome extension. So what I would suggest is this is for free. I am trying as much as possible to make sure you guys do not pay for so much tool. So you can see it has about 1,000 plus users. It's very efficient scraper tool. It has its limitation, which you will know why in a bit. However, it has been brilliant to help me do like very lightweight scraping, something like this. So how I would do it is I will open it, and as you can see here, it already gave me an idea. First of all, it defined the table. Where should it scrape? It's very smart. And then it also defines a button. You can see there's a button here that are the next page to go to the next page and the page after and so on. So I need to first of all clean my columns. I don't want random columns. So what data should I scrape? I don't want that data. I don't want that data. I also don't want that data. However, I want to know what kind of people they are hiring. Gives me a little bit of reference. I don't want that data. I don't want that data. And now this column gives me data on the companies, company exact names. So this is the most critical part of our flow. And this is how to start. I will remove all the other columns. I think they are not really relevant at this stage. So let me just make this a little bit bigger. I don't care so much about where, if this is something you're caring about, for example, your team is only in Jakarta and you're only focused on Jakarta, you can leave that. But from now, I will completely avoid this altogether completely. It's all of it for me are irrelevant columns. As you can see, scraping salaries, scraping this, scraping that. So all of this for me is just simply irrelevant at this point. I will only leave this one. So this is what we call the recency. How many days ago this was posted? Why is this a big deal for you? Because recency is everything. Recency shows that this company right now is looking for somebody in that specific department. So this means they have budget allocated for it. Most likely they already have budget right now. Because look, this data is expired 3 months from now. If let's say you tell me, so this data is still okay? No, it's not okay. So when I create that list, I am expecting your team to enrich these companies to reach find the decision maker within maximum 1 week. Maximum find the data in 1 week. And then reach out to them immediately in the next week. And they need to do maximum coverage in this maximum whole month. So you have a maximum window, you cannot go beyond. Once you go beyond, you're not coming at the right time anymore. You're done. So the idea is you need to be careful because sometimes it's always about the right timing when you're reaching out to companies. And this is just a classic case of scraping. So what I would do is, as you can see, I will start crawling. And the scraper works for me, as you can see here. Keep scraping the data, scraping the data, scraping the data. So now my data is full, it's nice, it's clean, it's beautiful. And the next step is probably I would want to download that in Excel sheets format. And that's where I would start. So now I have a very beautiful list of companies that are in the construction space that are basically not qualified yet, but they are actively hiring. So this is exactly how it looks like. Let me just show you the Excel sheet. As you can see, this is how it looks like. All I need to do now is just put the company and put what job they're looking for. And then recency, because this is very important for us. So this is how I do it in a nutshell. So for example, in this case, I only extracted 33 companies. This is just for the sample video. Of course, if I want to extract whole day, I'll extract whole day. However, you need to be careful because this scraper only works, for example, with JobStreet, but it doesn't work. Let me show you LinkedIn jobs. So as you can see, if I decided to go, again, Indonesia here, and I'm gonna go to all filters. So this is LinkedIn and it has different kind of companies. So probably I'm gonna add, as you can see, I'm gonna go all the way here and it's giving me options to choose from. I'm gonna add an industry. I'm gonna put construction. Okay, now show me the result. I'm looking at 127 job posting. Now you can see why JobStreet is way better. It has about 1,000 job posting. This one is only 127. Let's say I want to scrape the companies. We cannot do that. We are unable to collect data from LinkedIn. Sorry for the inconvenience, because it's not allowed. So this brings me to the point that probably you would need to use more sophisticated tools, which is called Phantom Buster. So Phantom Buster is a very good tool to do so. And they already have a module where you can actually scrape. So this is more like a demo. Yeah, extract leads. Okay, let's see, LinkedIn. So in LinkedIn, there's a lot of things you can extract from LinkedIn posts. If you are really interested of how to scrape LinkedIn without being restricted, without being banned, I'm happy to do a full comprehensive video on that alone. Just put your comments below in this video. Just put LinkedIn scraping and I'm happy to create a video just specifically for that because it's going to take another 2 hours to do so. But this gives you an idea that sometimes there are limitations as scrapers and you need to be aware what is the strength point and the weak point of the scraper you're working with. So for the scraper I recommended, the strength point is going on the job platforms. It can scrape it for you, no problem, and you can stuff there. You don't have to buy Phantom Buster, but it does, like, I'm not affiliated, I'm not promoting Phantom Buster in any way, but this is how their prices are. It's not cheap. It does add up along the way once you start to do serious scraping. So now you got your first list, congrats, that are based on Signy. Now you would need to create qualification parameter. For example, usually construction companies, how many employees they should have that would buy your software. Let's say you're selling to construction company, like I say, AI solution for them. So most likely the question comes into place, all right, so how can I qualify? What is a qualification parameter? You need to go back again to your previous wins that you have secured before as a client, or you need to find your competitors with the clients that they are bragging about. And then you need to find the common denominator in terms of qualification criteria. You start to analyze, there are on average minimum 200 employees for each company. Or they are on average, most of the time, the right fit companies are based in Jakarta. So there's also geography fit kind of locals thing. On average, they need to have minimum 5 people in their IT department. That's a qualification criteria. So now going back to the logic flow, first signal can be hiring, can be an event you took from, can be based on a tech stack, based on the competitors. We can scrape actually your competitors' followers. So this is what we call first signal. Second is qualification layer. You need to, okay, I got 50 companies. I got 100 companies. How to qualify them? Okay, so this is when you take that data. Okay, so let me go back to the screen. In the screen, you can see I got, for example, this amount of companies. Okay, let's say I got so far 33 companies. The easiest way, without thinking so much, is to qualify them on ChatGPT. But you would need to, first of all, check the capability of ChatGPT itself. I want you to qualify these companies on employee counts. Avoid speculation and must be factual data. If you could not retrieve the data, say NA. And these are the companies that I want you to qualify. Put them in table format. Who is upon company size. So again, as you can see, this is the outcome that I got so far from ChatGPT, and that's why it gives you an idea of the limitation. Prompting is everything. If you tell ChatGPT, find me the company employee size, it will give you bullshit information. So that's why you need to start somewhere first. Now it gives you an idea that this company has only about 20 plus employee count, very small company, but this company is a huge company, has around 5,000 plus. The rest is not applicable, not applicable, not applicable. And the reason for that is because we told them to avoid speculation data. Now we can get this speculation data based on other things like business registries, maybe scrape LinkedIn intensively, and so on. So this to give you a little bit of methodology here, where I told them, okay, proceed to that and show me proof. So I'll tell them, okay, proceed. So in this situation, I told them like, okay, you know what? Focus on speculation, but back it up with proof. I told them focus on speculation, but back it up with proof. So now what happened was, this is exactly what happened. You can see what speculation they would use to get the data and employee count. And here we are. So now ChatGPT is trying to, again, scrape and work for you to see what kind of estimate employee count and estimate data that he can carefully get for you. All right. So again, he's mainly scraping, as you can see, all those websites to do more or less advanced matching with certain companies. And it does get you real-time information, as you can see right now. Again, as an agency, I usually do not use ChatGPT for that. I would prefer to use Airtable or Claygen. If you really want more information on that, I'm happy to do a standalone video for this specific module and share it in the upcoming videos that we are releasing. So if that makes sense, do comment on Clay, and I'm happy to give you a walkthrough on how we do it via Clay systems. Okay, so now you can see the thought took exactly 2 minutes 53 seconds, and this is what we call factually ground data. Again, I'm always about factual data. I don't want bullshit data. So now it slowly got better. So you can see if you compare to this table, the before, and this is the after, when we make our prompt more precise, it slowly got us better data in terms of employee counts. But still, there's a lot of not available data. So what we would usually do in this case is we will take that data. Okay, so I love the fact that you can see also it gives you a little bit of where did this basis come from. So it's based from Glenn's company profile. It did say 11 to 15 employees here. So what I would do is I want to validate if we are at this data. Like for example, here this say Dami Alam Sujatra. So I will go here and I will put LinkedIn. Just what we call manual, just to validate if we can find them on LinkedIn or no. So we can find them on LinkedIn. And so in this page, this is a very classic case of how we can look into how companies are in terms of what are the employee counts. So if let's say I export Pete Alam Sujatra to Sales Navigator, very likely I will get this information correctly and I will know that it's 51 to 200 employees. So how to do that? This is your last step to qualify the companies on employee size and also on their website. You will go to the account section. You will go to the upload account. So this means your Sales Navigator needs to be the pro version. Make sure you do that. So you do upload accounts, and then you need to make sure you follow this, save your file as CSV and include blah, 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 all of the stuff. So what does it mean to you? Meaning that you need to make sure that this file. So initially we got the data again from ChatGPT. This is one way to qualify. The other way is to qualify by uploading it from factual data from Sales Navigator. As you can see, this one we cannot. I think when it comes to Excel, qualification data. So this sheet, we're gonna export it to a CSV, okay? And then we're gonna upload it here. So what happens is we're gonna take this here, go to my files. I'm gonna take qualification data sample. And account name, I'm gonna say company. So LinkedIn profile, I have no idea. Company profile, I have no idea. Website, I have no idea. But country, I have an idea. And you probably need to put the country Indonesia. So what you need to do is you need to make a section, call it country, and you need to make sure you put Indonesia. If let's say this is your favorite country, because it might get you some random name, same company names from different countries. So you need to be careful about that. So again, I will just walk you through it. Let's upload. Next step. Company, country, Indonesia, and we're done. So what I tell him is, I'm just gonna call it qualification data sample, and I'm gonna make it finished. So what usually happens is, so you will see here the progress bar, 65% complete, 100% complete. So what usually happens is, again, if you double checked, we have 32 companies that we uploaded. The question is, how many companies can LinkedIn actually identify? 32. So no problem. So what's gonna happen is I'm gonna open that, and this is how it looks like. It already identified it, and it's perfect. So what should I do? What are the things that I should do with it? Well, now the next step is to have an understanding of these companies. So as you can see, all of these companies have been in construction, mining. There's some companies that are not construction, like they are not defined as construction, but they are construction. This is how they position themselves on LinkedIn. So this is also something for you to learn. However, this company is not qualified in terms of industry fit. It's outsourcing and offshoring. This one is environmental services, human resources services. So this is a stage where you want to qualify the companies. So you want to pick the companies that are construction companies, and this is your list. So for example, I would actually pick the ones that are not. So it will be maritime. This one is fine. Building material is similar to construction. Business consulting, IT services, mining, I will leave it because there's an overlap, and so on. So what I would do with these I would just simply remove them from the list. So now you get an idea. I would also here ask ChatGPT, I would say qualify these companies based on their industries and verify if they are in the construction industry. If not, disqualify from the list. So why do I do this? Again, guys, you need to, this is the job of the GTM, go-to-market engineer, okay? You always need to cross-check your data. So we cross-check it with AI, which is usually ChatGPT. Again, this is a free one, so I'm intentionally using it for you guys to see. And I will also use Sales Navigator. Sales Navigator is not free. You still need to pay for the pro package. but gives you a little bit of idea how it looks like. So now we started to qualify. So I say run on that full list. So now it gives you a little bit of example of this one is construction, this one is petrochemicals, infrastructure solution, this one is waste management. So if let's say you are strictly and only selling to these construction companies, then you would need that. You would need to qualify it first. So now we are seeing crazy amount of disqualification over here. As you can see, real estate developer, real estate, no clear construction, no clear evidence of construction, inefficient evidence to classify as construction. So the question is, should I take ChatGPT as an evidence? Nope. Gives you an idea. Again, AI can be quite misleading. It says no sufficient evidence. So I have to go back again and rely on my Sales Navigator, as you can see over here in terms of this approach, which is you can see manufacturing, chemical manufacturing, international trade. So now it gives you a little bit of clarity and it's much better. So after that, I will go to the leads filters. Let's say I want to find only people inside these companies. So I will go to the companies and I will find those people. So that's exactly another time for another video, but this is roughly the outcome you should expect. How to qualify on the second layer of qualification, the industry fit, how to qualify on the company size fit, how many employee count, how to qualify on persona, which is the decision makers and so on. So this is for you guys to have an understanding of how the flow of qualification work. And this is roughly what you should expect moving forward in terms of tier 1, tier 2, tier 3, tier 4. So my tier 1 at this point will be companies that are hiring and they are qualified. So companies that are hiring, but they are industry fit in terms of construction. They are having minimum employees of 200 employees. The second tier will be companies that are not hiring, but I found them via other signals, for example, event signals and so on, along with that they are still qualified in the qualification parameter. My third tier will be companies without any sort of sales. The companies that I show you guys in the early stage, that was, I would put them as third tier because these companies are mainly those 5,000 companies that are visible on LinkedIn. That would be requiring me again to re-qualify them on an industry fit and employee size. And the first one is go after those companies that we missed out, which is 95%. And then how to find those companies. So if you ask me, okay, Saleh, how can I find those companies that are not found on LinkedIn, are not found on Apollo, are not digitally visible? So we go to something called Outscraper. And this Outscraper is a fantastic tool, I highly recommend it. One of the best tools for Google. We scrape them from Google Maps. That's exactly what you're going to do. So you're going to go all the way out on finding those companies from Google. I'm happy to walk you through it one by one. However, you can also get a tutorial here, very quick one. You need to put construction company in the categories, construction, and you need to let them know which country you focus on. If you even want to focus on specific city, you can choose a city you want to focus on. It's a powerful tool and it gives you the companies you want to have. It's going to take a lot of time. Usually takes maybe 30 minutes, 1 hour, 5 hours, depends on how much data you want to extract. I don't care so much about the emails, the social media, the phones, because all of it is rubbish data. It doesn't give you the exact decision maker data. So that brings me to where you can have clean lists. So you're going to have those clean lists in your master sheet. We're going to make this in a beautiful Excel sheet or a beautiful Google sheet. I personally use Airtable, so you can check it out over here. Airtable is a very great tool. I'm happy to discuss this later on in another video. That's about it, folks. This is exactly how I do it in the cheapest cost possible, getting the full coverage possible without using expensive tools. The only tool that probably is going to be expensive is your Sales Navigator tool. Any other tool is really affordable and you can afford it yourself. In the next discussion, I'm going to focus more on how to get decision makers, how to get verified contacts, how to get their WhatsApp number, phone number, emails, but we usually put it as third priority, so I'll discuss why. And you will have a full understanding of how you do proper data enrichment in Asia Pacific and compact sourcing. So stay tuned for the next video. Thank you.